A few years back, I decided to start documenting my SaaS business journey. I typed out my thoughts and experiences in stages based on where my company was at in terms of revenue. So 0 to 25K in MRR, 25 to 75K in MRR, 100K plus in MRR, and the exit. As the company was going through each stage, I was recording in real time the most important lessons and strategies that were critical for helping us achieve each revenue target and grow into the next revenue stage. The very last thing I wrote in this 60-page document full of notes and strategies years ago was a heading titled The Exit. Up until recently, the content under that heading was left blank. Looking back, I guess I always knew there would be an exit at some point, and that hunch actually turned to reality. We got our exit in a life-changing 7-figure acquisition, and so I was finally able to complete the last and final chapter of this particular SaaS journey, which was in fact the exit. As someone with a genuine passion in sharing my insights and experiences with other entrepreneurs, I couldn't be more excited to package this material and finally put it out in the world and help as many entrepreneurs as possible. If you're a SaaS founder, a bootstrapped entrepreneur like myself without a trust fund and investors to rely on, a startup founder that is struggling to gain any traction, or an aspiring entrepreneur that needs that extra push to get started, this is for you. The title of this course is Hard Knock SaaS. And just like the title, this is a hard knock crash course that you won't find in any textbook. This is full of boots on the ground strategies that will help you get your business to profitability faster, give you practical tips you can implement today, and give you recommended tools and resources to manage your business better. Head over to hardknocksaas.com and get access to this material today, and let's get started. So Geoff, I started my first SaaS over 12 years ago, back when there weren't nearly as many options for like efficient stacks to run your SaaS business on. So, for example, At the time, products like Stripe just launched, Chargeify, Recurly, like all these companies were just at their inception. So at that time for us, we kind of like scrapped things together, made it work. And I just remember as years went by and you start seeing new products gaining traction, you start thinking like, shoot, like I wish we were using that app or this app, things would have been so much better, but we were just in too deep with certain stuff, especially like the payment processors. But now I'm in the process of building a new SaaS company. So I'm now starting to explore those foundational products that you need to run the SaaS business on, like payment processing, CRM, support management, and things. And I stumbled on Outseta, which I thought was fantastic. So here we are. I was hoping just to chat with you, learn more about Outseta, what you're noticing on the ground in the SaaS and in business space, and hopefully provide value to people listening along the way. How does that sound?
Awesome. That sounds great. Thanks so much for having me.
Awesome. So tell me a bit about Outseta. Like how did it come about? What's the origin story there?
Yeah, the origin story is exactly what you just described. So going back, this is actually 12 years exactly to 2010. I joined a startup, the first SaaS startup that I worked at. It's a company called Buildium. It's the word build and then ium.com. And back in those days, to your point, there wasn't really good tooling in terms of launching a SaaS business. So we went on the exact journey that you described. We, looked at integrating Stripe's APIs for payments. We looked at Salesforce for CRM and Zendesk for customer support and HubSpot for marketing automation. And we were an early stage bootstrapped company, and stitching all those tools together and sort of building a working tech stack that did the things we needed it to do was a massive chore. And I was kind of the business user where as our business was growing, I was saying we need to fold in these new tools. And my now co-founder at Outseta, Dimitri, was the CTO of that business. And I was kind of pulling on his shirt sleeve saying, hey, I don't have the technical skill set to integrate all these tools perfectly. I need your help. And he just kind of threw his hands up and was like, I'm spending more time building our tech stack than I am building the actual software product that we're trying to deliver. Yeah. This is nuts. Why isn't there sort of an all-in-one tech stack that gives you sort of the prerequisite tools required to build a SaaS? And an analogy that a lot of people like is we're sort of the Shopify for SaaS or membership businesses. We bring together all the core tooling so you can really focus on delivering your product and not what's required to stand up a business.
Love it. When did you guys launch?
We launched in late 2016.
Okay.
So yeah, we've been at it for about 6 years at this point.
Okay, nice. So 6 years. So I want to take it back. So how did Outseta get their first 100 clients? What was that like?
Yeah, yeah. Our story is an interesting one. We definitely grounded out for a long time. We sort of flew in the face of conventional startup wisdom, which tells you like focus on a really small problem and solve that first, and then expand your product set. And we said, no, like what we're trying to deliver is this tech stack that brings together all of these core tools. In order to even deliver an MVP, we need subscription billing, CRM, email marketing, help desk, and reporting. So it's not really a single software product. It's like we had to build 4 or 5 software products even to get an MVP out the door. So one of the things that I would just use to kind of describe our journey is the first 2 years we're solely building an MVP. Year 3, we struggled mightily. Through 3 years, we had not reached 100 customers. And then really things started to accelerate year 4, year 5, year 6 as the product became that much more mature. But one of the things I think I learned the hard way was I was excited, as any founder is, about Outseta. I was going out to our target customers and saying, hey, you should check out this new tech stack that we've built for SaaS businesses. And the response unequivocally was, it's a nice idea, but your billing isn't as good as the other billing systems out there. Your CRM isn't as good as the other CRMs. Same with your email tools, et cetera. And I think there's this natural propensity for founders to sort of wonder why people aren't buying their product. What they should be like thinking is, why would people buy our product? And the hard truth for us is it just took us 4 years or so to get to the point where our software was competitive enough across the categories of software that we cover to really warrant people signing up and using it in earnest. But getting back to your question about the first 100 customers, we just kind of scrapped for them. It was a combination of what I would call community marketing. So just being in like relevant Slack groups, indie hackers community, those sorts of communities, and just being there, being present, answering questions about SaaS. Definitely some email marketing. So we did some cold email prospecting, really just looking at sites like Product Hunt and Beta List, where people are announcing that they're launching new SaaS products and sort of reaching out proactively. And then the third bit I would say is third and fourth, content and partnerships. So we are a Stripe verified partner. You can find Outseta on Stripe's website as you're looking for sort of complementary tools. That's always been important for us. And then content marketing. We just started writing content the same day that we started writing code. And it definitely, as they say with SEO, with content in general, it takes a while for that to kind of build up and become meaningful. But starting the day that we started writing code was one of the best decisions we ever made.
Yeah. So that's what my assumption would have been. So like how much of your business today are startups compared to established companies with stacks already in place?
I would say it's interesting. I think of all of our customers, to be frank, as startups. I don't think we have a customer that's doing more than like $5 million in revenue today. So they're all relatively small businesses, but certainly some of them are day zero startups. Some of them are, doing $1 million plus in revenue. So that gives you kind of a sense of where they fall.
Okay. And what about today? Is it still a combination of all these marketing and sales channels, or did you like hone in on a couple, or like what's working today?
Yeah, a few things we've folded in since the initial channels I mentioned. One of the major inflection points in our business wasn't what I would call a pivot, but what I would call looking at a new audience. So when we first started building Outseta, we niched down hard on technical founders building SaaS businesses. And today that's still roughly 50% of our customer base. But what we realized really in year 3, year 4, as I was struggling to sell to technical founders, was Outseta and sort of the fully integrated nature of the product provides that much more value to a less technical founder who doesn't have the skill set to integrate all these tools. So we started focusing on the no-code community really in year 4, and that was kind of the first major inflection point in our growth. Importantly, a partnership with Webflow started driving us a lot of business. You can basically drop Outseta into a Webflow site and have sort of a subscription business very, very quickly. So that became big for us. And one of the other things that's been really impactful was just an affiliate program. Because we are building this huge software product and we're bootstrapping it and it's a low price point product, we have to make some sacrifices in our business to just run a viable business. And one of those is we decided not to have any sales team. So we don't have any sales team. We don't have any support team. Everybody contributes to support. And on the sales side of things, it's 100% product-led growth or business that's referred to us by affiliates. So these are just people that are out there publishing content about how they're using Outseta, and that drives about 25% of our business today.
Wow, that's amazing. How big is the team right now?
There's 5 of us working on this full time and a few contractors we use here or there.
Wow, that's impressive. Do you share revenue numbers at all?
We don't share revenue numbers publicly. We're 6 years in, we're bootstrapped, we're profitable. We're not yet at $1 million in revenue, but we're moving in quickly.
Amazing. Round of applause there. I mean, to build a bootstrapped company, I've been there, to get to that level of profitability and, getting to that 7-figure ARR, it's tough. So, it's very, very impressive. So you sort of alluded to it. So Outseta, it can cater to virtually any type of SaaS company, or subscription company for that matter. The fact that you can serve a very broad client base, like, do you think it's more that makes things more helpful or more challenging when it comes to sales and marketing?
Yeah, that's a huge question, and honestly, something I do not know the answer to. So our customer base today is roughly built around 4 different use cases. We have technical SaaS founders building SaaS products. We have sort of no coders that are building membership type websites where they're charging subscription fees for access to content. We have a lot of online communities that charge for access to the community. And then we have a lot of people that are individual freelancers or agencies that use Outseta almost as a personal tech stack. And we continue to have customers signing up in each of those buckets. And to this point, we have decided not to go sort of all in on one of them. From the perspective of the ability to focus and the ability to really target our messaging, I think that could be worthwhile. But I also think that none of those markets are as big as people necessarily think they are. I think Patrick Campbell from Price Intelligently or ProfitWell has actually talked about that a little bit in the context of SaaS. There's only like 100,000 or so SaaS companies out there. So at this point, I'm sort of making the bet that continuing to serve all of those use cases makes the most sense for us. It does open up our target market for us. Yes, there are some nuances between those, but at the end of the day, they're all subscription businesses. They all need billing. They all need CRM. They all need email. So we think we can serve them pretty well.
Can you go through those segments again? It was like membership type of sites.
Yep. SaaS products, membership sites, online communities, and then sort of like a personal tech stack for a freelancing business.
Okay. And is it pretty like split between those as of now, your client base?
The personal tech stack is definitely the smallest. We've spent 0 effort targeting that whatsoever. I put out like a single tutorial in the early years of Outseta. I was doing some consulting myself and charging on a retainer basis for my consulting services, and I sort of started using it in that capacity. Some folks picked up on that and started doing the same, but that's definitely like less than 10% of our customer base. It's roughly split between SaaS and membership sites. At this point, they're probably like 40% of our customer base each, I would say.
Yeah. What's the number one, I guess, feature or use case for a SaaS company? Like, what do they love about Outseta the most?
Yeah, I think the pushback that we've always gotten from developers is you can't possibly do all of these things as well as the best in class email tools, the best in class CRM, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And they are surprised when we turn around and say, you're right. Our argument is, if you look at HubSpot versus Outseta, does HubSpot have some bells and whistles that Outseta doesn't? Absolutely. But those are mostly things that in the context of an early stage company aren't necessarily used or are, features added over time to support bigger companies. We don't have to build that stuff. Our argument is by bringing all these tools into the same platform and giving you sort of the basic feature that you actually need, you can more than launch your business and get it off the ground and start to grow. We can take you from $0 in revenue to many millions in revenue. And at some point you might outgrow Outseta and, assemble the perfect tech stack, and that's fine. So I think it comes down to customers that have done this before, tend to love Outseta because they're like, we've done the alternative to how we started this conversation. You said, I went out and had to assemble all these tools and it was a pain in the butt. It's certainly gotten easier over time. But even if you are assembling best-in-class tools today and you use Zapier or webhooks or whatnot, there's still a lot of work there to assemble that tech stack to make sure data is ping-ponging between tools correctly and whatnot. So I think speed to market is what people who have sort of been here before latch on to with Outseta. They say, I can just go focus on building my product. I know when the product is ready, I can hook it up to Outseta and I've got a business. I'm not wasting time on this stuff that isn't core product functionality. Beyond that, the value prop after speed to market is really about managing your business from behind a single login. So if you are operating a small team, your entire team's logging into Outseta to send marketing campaigns and answer support tickets and view your CRM records. So it's really kind of a consolidation play, and it's just nice to log into a single tool to run your business day to day.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree. Especially a lot of new entrepreneurs or founders, they almost have like shiny object syndrome. It's like,
100%.
HubSpot, just because it's like that name you hear, like you feel like you have to use it. And yeah, it has bells and whistles, but like in practicality, what percentage of these bells and whistles do like companies actually use?
Yep. Yeah, and we're seeing that. We're seeing that loud and clear right now as the economy is, moving in the wrong direction and people are looking at SaaS subscriptions and cutting them and whatnot. It's been an amazing driver of migrations to Outseta. And we've seen a lot of instances where companies that were spending $40,000 or $50,000 a year on their tech stack have been able to migrate to Outseta, have 90% of the same functionality, and their bill has gone from 40 or 50K a year to $3,000 or $4,000 a year. So it's kind of been interesting. It's like when the economy is bad, we see a lot of migrations to Outseta. And when the economy has been good and sort of booming, we see more people starting businesses and using Outseta. So it's been sort of resilient, which is nice.
I could see that for sure. I want to like pick on SaaS specifically. So, what tools on top of Outseta are you seeing your SaaS clients still using, if any?
Yeah, good question. I would say like our most successful customers are definitely the ones that choose to adopt Outseta in full. The things that come to mind, there are still definitely technologies that you probably need to use to run your business that we don't provide. One that we use a lot, we see all of our customers use for the most part, is like video hosting tools, Loom, Wistia, those kind of things are definitely something you would typically need.
Yeah.
Anyways, we do have some customers that have more stringent requirements around email. If they want to build like really visual email workflows with a lot of if-then logic and branching and that kind of stuff. We certainly handle the basics pretty well, but we're not as robust as like an active campaign when it comes to setting up really email workflows with a lot of logic. I would say those are probably like the two other
Okay.
technologies that we see adopted the most.
Let's take a step back. So, what are the core for like a new SaaS founders, someone who's
Yep.
building a SaaS now? Like, what are those core fundamental tools that you just need, whether you use
Yeah.
Outseta
So
or not? You need it.
there's five that we have kind of identified as the core of our product, and we refer to them as like the common denominator features that any SaaS business is going to need. The first is basically subscription billing. You need some way to charge your customers. The second is CRM. You need somewhere to store all that prospect and customer data. The third is email marketing / automations, all those, free trial reminder workflows, all your marketing emails, all that kind of stuff. The fourth is the help desk. So that is really three pieces within Outseta. It's a support ticketing system, a knowledge base so you can publish how-to content and that kind of stuff, and then live chat tools, sort of intercom light, if you will. And then the last one is reporting. So it's financial reporting, user engagement tracking. We can actually see like what people are doing within your product and display that on your CRM records. But those are kind of the five: billing, CRM, email, help desk, and reporting.
Yeah, I agree with that. One I might throw in as well is like an internal wiki, like a documentation type of app,
Yep.
like a Notion or something like that.
Yeah. The two that we hear a lot, that's one. The other one is just like a basic landing page builder. That isn't
Mm.
something that we offer today. And going back to like that analogy with Shopify, like Shopify does give you that basic front end you can start with, or you can build out your own. I think that's a natural growth area for us. For now, we've sort of said, let's let people build their marketing site how they want to. But I think both that and an internal wiki would make a lot of sense going forward.
Yeah, yeah. I want to talk about the CRM portion a bit. I think that's always I don't know if a tricky is the right word, but like it maybe like overwhelming one for a lot of people, just because like there's a lot of CRM
Sure.
options out there. A lot of these CRMs
Yep.
are overwhelming in a lot of
Mm-hmm.
cases.
Yep.
Um, how did you look at the CRM when you were building it? Like, how did you simplify it where any SaaS business can use it?
Yeah. In terms of CRM, obviously Salesforce is still kind of the status quo. I've used Salesforce for a decade of my career. I hate it. I think it's just, yes, it can do a lot, but it's bloated, it's expensive, it's clunky.
Yeah.
So I think when we were starting to build our CRM, the two products that we there were really three products we looked at, but the three that were a major influence were HubSpot CRM, Pipedrive, and actually another product that's much lesser known called Nutshell, that I think pretty highly of. But
What was
those
it?
are
What's that
all.
last one you said?
It's called Nutshell CRM.
Okay,
Um,
never heard of it.
but those three products are all, I don't necessarily want to say similar, but they share a lot of the same fundamental elements. And honestly, one of the things about Outseta, I don't say this to be like uninspiring, but everything that we've built, nothing is really terribly new and novel. Like these are pre-existing, well understood categories of software. And that's a huge advantage for us when it comes to building these feature sets. We can go out there and say, what are the best in class products? What do we like about them? What do we think we want to sort of copy and paste and bring into our product? And those three were certainly pretty heavy influences. The major difference with our CRM is the primary CRM records are really built around your financial relationship with a customer. So if you think about HubSpot CRM, if you wanted to know like what plan someone was on or how much money they've spent with your business or what products they've purchased or any of that stuff, you need to integrate Stripe with HubSpot and send that data into HubSpot. And that's kind of what you do with the CRM in general. You integrate all these other tools that kind of stack data into a single record. With Outseta, because everything's part of the same system, you open your CRM record and it tells you what plan the user's on. You can change their plan from their CRM record. You can see like actual customer lifetime value that just updates in real time as you collect new payments from the user directly on your CRM records. So there's kind of this financial component built into the CRM because the billing system and the CRM are one and the same. And I'd say that's really the most fundamental difference between other CRMs. But from the perspective of like how you add custom properties and different fields to your CRM records and all that, it's quite similar to what you've seen in
Yeah.
other CRMs.
Yeah, that makes sense. The financial connection. What about the connection between like the usage within the app, like being able to
Yep.
see for an individual user, like what they're doing, how they're using it, like events.
Yeah. So that's pretty much all CRMs this day have this notion of like an activity feed where you can see ideally what actions a user is taking across different products. Outseta has that too. But again, it's just kind of everything works out of the box because all these tools speak to each other. So if you look at any customer CRM record, yes, you can see their subscription when it renews and make those financially oriented changes, but you can also see all of your email interactions, all of your support tickets, all of your chat conversations. You can see the actual engagement with your product. So you can instrument what we call custom activities, just important happenings within your SaaS product. And it shows up in your activity feed that it'll say, Geoff logged in at 10 a.m. and then clicked on this button within the product at 11 a.m. And all of that just gets recorded by default. So I think when it comes to kind of speed to market and efficiency, the fact that all this stuff just kind of happens without needing to send data between all these different products to make that happen is really where we save you time.
Yeah. Is there anything that a user has to connect with to capture all this event data, or is it all done automatically like what if I want to add my own like unique event, something like specific within my app? Am I able to do that?
Yep. So there's kind of two different ways that you can track user engagement. For our less technical customers, let's say the membership, like the membership sites, you can select any element on a website page and give it a custom attribute. So think of just having like a video on a website. You can apply a custom attribute to that video, and that basically just reflects back to Outseta, hey, Geoff logged into this site, clicked this video, and watched it. And you can do that completely without code, which is pretty cool. But in the context of a traditional SaaS application, you can create a custom event. And let's say, again, it's like a button within a SaaS application. When that button is clicked, we then just send back information via Outseta's API that says, hey, this button was clicked, recorded on this user's CRM record.
Okay. So okay. And you're saying a user can do that themselves?
The user of the software would not, the person interacting with the software product would not do that themselves. You would instrument that for your business. So typically how we see
That's
this.
that's what I meant. Yeah. When
Yeah,
I say user, I meant like a user using Outseta, like their
for sure.
company. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So with us, for example, if you log into Outseta, we have a hypothesis, as most companies do, on which actions are important for a user to take with an Outseta early on. For us, it's things like we want you to connect to your Stripe account. We want you to send a test email broadcast. These sorts of things that indicate that you're exploring the feature set and more likely to convert. So we've instrumented all of those as custom events. And when someone signs up for a free trial, we can see directly on their CRM record that they have connected to Stripe, that they have sent that test email. And those are good indications to us that that's a customer we should spend time with because they're more likely to convert.
Yeah. Nice. I love that. One thing I'm like very picky on when trying to find a CRM is um, how it handles like the sales pipeline for folks that or contacts that
Sure.
aren't yet clients.
Mhm.
So how does Outseta view that? How did you build out like the sales pipeline flow of the
Yeah, so
CRM?
we call it deals within Outseta. It's basically similar to what you've probably seen in like a HubSpot or a Pipedrive in the sense that it's like a Kanban board, and you can do a list view too, but you can basically build out stages of your customer acquisition funnel. So for us, it's like we have an engaged column, which basically means we've made some sort of contact with the prospect. We have a demo completed column, which is like we were on a demo with the customer, and then all the way up to closed won. And it is pretty much a drag and drop interface. You can set up some automations to sort of move people automatically between stages if certain actions occur and that kind of thing. But it is relatively sort of basic tracking of progression through a customer acquisition funnel at this point.
Yeah. Is there have you had any like feedback or pushback on that where it wasn't satisfactory to some companies in their flow or
For sure. I would say in general, the companies that really need that feature set in a lot of depth tend to be a little bit further along than most of our customers. They tend to be teams that have like built out a sales team of 10 or 20 people. Most of our customers are early stage enough that it's like companies of 5 to 10 people at the most. And I think those features aren't needed as much, but there are certainly instances where we lose business. Another area where we lose business sometimes is if you have like a call center and you need to do call tracking within the CRM, we don't facilitate that yet at this point. I think that's also a natural growth area for us. But I mean, from just the basic perspective of you're sending prospecting emails and following up with clients and doing demos and you need to track that within a CRM. I think Outseta covers the basics pretty well.
Mhm. Is there any type of SaaS company or type of company in general that might not be well suited to use Outseta? Like
Absolutely.
how would you
A few
describe a company that yeah.
few things come to mind. One would be really big ticket, meaning like high contract value SaaS companies. And the pushback there is we process payments via credit cards. If you're processing like $50,000 contracts, typically you don't want to pay those with credit cards. So that's one where I would immediately look at some other type of product. The other ones that come to mind right now, Outseta only allows you to bill your customers in a single currency. It can be any currency you want or any currency that Stripe supports, but you can't bill in multiple currencies concurrently. So for some customers in Europe that really need that, and they tend to be in Europe, that can be something that would point them away from Outseta. And the final one I would say is if you need to collect payments via ACH or just like electronic checks commonly, again, it's really built around credit card processing at this point. So if most
Mm.
of your customers want to pay by some sort of electronic check, there's going to be other products that handle that better.
Okay. So it's really just like on the payment and billing side, no like feature sets that are kind of missing that like a bigger enterprise company can't use, or is it really just the billing components?
I think it's mostly the billing component. If you do integrate Stripe directly, they do support multi-currency billing. They do have an option for ACH payments. I think they are a little bit more flexible and can meet some of those use cases that aren't sort of relatively low price point credit card focused transactions better.
Hmm. Okay. What about like multi-user type of like a SaaS company who sells
Yep.
products to multiple users? They sell on seat basis. Like
Yep.
I'm assuming Outseta handles that pretty simply.
Yeah, that's really what we do best in my opinion. Because we sell to startups, sort of this idea that we latched onto early on is this notion of what we call pricing agility. And it's basically you don't know at an early stage what you should be charging your customers or even what your pricing model should be. So we make it
Yeah.
really easy to change that and to experiment with that. We do team-based subscriptions. You can set like a maximum number of users on a plan. We do per user pricing. We just support a very wide range of pricing models, and it's incredibly easy to update the prices that are shown on your website or even the pricing model that's shown on your website. So I think that's actually like the single strength of the product,
Nice.
our biggest strength. And it also comes down to the billing system and the authentication system are one and the same. So let's use per user pricing as an example. Stripe can handle per user pricing from a payment perspective. They can charge you $20 per user, but then you have to go out and integrate that with your authentication tool so that, if someone's paid for 5 users and a 6 users tries to be added, they get prompted for upgrade and they can't log in and all of that. There's a ton of work to implement all of that. And we've connected those dots out of the box.
Okay, nice. What about the ability for like a subscription client charging them like a one-time fee for a service?
Yep, you can
Are
do
you
that
able to
too.
do that as well? Yeah.
Yep.
One platform that I was very like intimate with in my company was Chargeify, like a subscription
Sure.
software that sits on top like a payment processor.
Mm-hmm.
Um, how how would you compare in general to like a Chargeify or like a Recurly or one of these?
Yeah, they're comparable and they're all a little bit different. To be honest with you, I'm least familiar of kind of the big subscription billing platforms with Chargeify. I don't know why that was. Certainly, like when we started working on this, Chargeify was one of the bigger, kind of well-known subscription management companies.
Yeah,
But I think I'm guessing I may be totally wrong on this. I think ChargeBee kind of emerged as the leader in the subscription management space before Stripe really got into it on their own. And we do definitely compete with ChargeBee in particular quite a bit. There's a lot of people that were conditioned to ChargeBee because they used it 5 or 10 years ago in their SaaS companies, and now they're comparing Outseta to ChargeBee. Um, I think ChargeBee does have a slightly deeper feature set than we do right now. We hear a lot of your usability is way better, so I think that drives a lot of people to us early on. Recurly is pretty darn similar to Outseta from a subscription management perspective, and importantly, in all of this, part of the reason we built Outseta from the get-go was Stripe did not offer subscription billing for SaaS companies. They offered really good APIs, since the get-go, but you had to take that and sort of build the entire subscription management layer on top of the APIs or use one of these third-party products that we're talking about. So we sort of set out to build subscription billing for Stripe before Stripe did. And obviously
yeah,
Stripe has now come on strong. They've got Stripe billing, their own sort of product in this space. And really how we've differentiated against that, the product we're most similar to is Stripe billing, to be honest with you. Outseta and Stripe billing are very, very similar themselves. So now the play has been, we are this all-in-one platform that's going to save you time because you don't need to integrate your authentication system with Stripe billing. We've kind of done that for you.
yeah. Makes sense. Love that. One component of Chargeify, which I think for especially like any SaaS company, but especially a bootstrap company, a company who like every dollar matters and,
Yep.
stretching the dollar, recovering as much revenue
Yep.
as you can, especially with like payment failures. They have like a
The
dunning and
Dunning.
retry feature, which you can customize as well.
Yep.
Does Outseta do that as well?
We do a lot of that. It's not as customizable as it should be to date. Sort of the approach that we've taken is we are sitting on at this point a pretty large data set of subscription businesses, and we've sort of optimized that for you. That is an area where certainly customers are pushing us and saying, "Hey, we want to have a little more control over exactly what that process looks like." So
Yeah.
I think that's something we'll grow into, but it again is kind of cool because of the all-in-one nature of the product. If a payment fails, Outseta is going to do several things. One is we continue to make automated attempts to collect that payment. Two, we send out automated dunning type emails asking the user to update their payment information and all that kind of stuff. And third, because we're an authentication tool, we can lock the user out of their account automatically and prompt them to input payment information if they even want to log in. So taking that kind of three-tiered approach, we're kind of hitting them from every angle. And if there's an opportunity for us to collect a payment, it's pretty likely that we'll be able to do so.
Okay. Okay. Nice. Nice. What are the features or additions that you wish you had right now, or like you will be implementing in the near future?
Yeah, great question. Definitely multi-currency billing is on that list. I actually, I'll make myself unpopular with some of our customers by saying this probably, but I actually don't think that's as important as a lot of people think it is. But it's certainly something, it's just like a no-brainer for us to do. So I think that's going to be one. Probably the single biggest one at this point, at least in my opinion, is a really great solution for handling VAT for customers in Europe. This is something that everyone in Europe is struggling with, and there's a lot of different options that have emerged. Stripe Tax is one. They will sort of calculate VAT for you appropriately, but you still need to file your taxes, which if you are an individual founder or a small company, that can be a big pain in the butt. So a lot of people are moving towards, we can go down this rabbit hole as deeply as you want to, but a merchant of record solution where a company like Paddle, for example, they are actually charging your customers. You're not charging their customers. And because they are the one taking on what's called the merchant of record responsibility, they actually pay your taxes for you. They charge you, a hefty fee to do that. But from a convenience perspective, if you're an early stage founder, that can be a big thing. So we have ways of handling that today. But we don't have like a merchant of record solution. I think that's going to be a big thing that's going to be really attractive to people in Europe. So that's something that we're actively working on. And then beyond
so a quick question on that is the multi-currency, like the folks that want that, are those mostly companies in Europe?
Mostly companies in Europe, I would say. They want to charge, US customers in US dollars, European customers in euros, and customers in Great Britain and British pounds. That's kind of the use case there. But those are probably the two big ones. I would say after that, just getting a little bit more sophisticated with some of the like email logic and branching is probably the other big growth area for us at this point. But really, like the billing and authentication components of Outseta, at the end of the day, they're sort of the core of our product. They're what makes everything work, what makes this kind of come alive. And those are really the areas that I think are like most rock solid today.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's great. So Outseta is obviously a SaaS company as well, and I'm assuming using Outseta to run your own business, right?
Entire business runs on it. Yep.
Nice. And is Outseta a remote team?
We're a remote team, 5 people distributed all over the place at this point. We've got basically 2 people on the west coast of the US, 2 people on the east coast, and then someone in Greece.
Okay, nice. Another one of those like foundational apps that I think we missed was like a communication tool like Slack. Yep. How do you communicate with your team?
In the context of our team, we do use Slack. Outseta can actually integrate with your Slack channels too, and like send notifications to your Slack channels. So we have a growth Slack channel, and every time we get a new customer, we get a notification in it. But in terms of just inter-team communication, we use Slack.
Yeah. What about the ability to communicate with your team inside of Outseta? Like, for example, if like a support rep is on a client profile, being able to like tag someone in another department on this profile, like within the app.
Yeah, there's the ability to add sort of like user specific notes or comments, and then
Okay.
similarly, like if you're answering a support ticket, you can reply to the support ticket, or you can add a note for another team member, so you can kind of like discuss the issue behind the scenes without the customer actually seeing it, and then you can reply.
Yeah. Okay. Nice. Um, I want to talk about sales a bit. Like today, I know we talked about how
Mhm.
you got your first, grinded it out for the first few years, figuring things out. And I find it pretty fascinating that you said you don't have any sales or support
Yep.
reps, correct?
Yeah, so they're different on the support front. Just quickly, our model. So one thing we haven't talked about at all, which is probably the most unique part of Outseta, is kind of our organizational design and how the team is structured and compensated and all of that. But part of what we're
Mm.
trying to do is keep the team really small and mostly senior folks, and everybody does support, which is something that with a lot of people, frankly, is going to be unpopular. Like we have developers that have built a career over 25 years and they're answering support tickets, and that's just part of our model. Our general thesis is like, let's stay as close to the customer as possible, and rather than building out this big support organization, let's make everyone do support so that the people answering your support tickets can actually fix your problems. They're not just kind of like escalating
Yeah.
issues and whatnot. But
Yeah.
from a sales perspective, it's really come down to if you look at Outseta objectively, like if you're a VC looking at Outseta, it's a bad idea. We're bootstrapping a massive product, selling it at a low price point to an audience that's naturally going to have high churn. There's just not a lot of margin built into this particular business idea, and as part of that, we have to make some sacrifices. And because we want to stay small, we basically said, okay, no dedicated support team. Everyone's got to do support. No dedicated sales team. We need to push ourselves to embrace, product-led growth to the greatest extent possible, or incentivize people very generously via our affiliate program to sort of do sales on our behalf. There's no question in my mind that we're leaving some money on the table by making that decision. If we were following up with every single trial and putting them through a sales process and assigning leads, I'm sure that we would squeeze some more revenue out of this business. But I don't think it's viable for us given sort of the unit economics in the business. And we just have to say, we're going to grow a little bit more slowly, but we're going to do it with a lot less headcount.
Yeah, makes sense. So two things I want to ask about that. I would have assumed that customers of Outseta, like I would assume that you have a very low churn because like if a customer, especially a SaaS company, signs up to Outseta and is
Yeah.
using it, the chances of them leaving, I would guess, are slim to none. Is that
The
not
answer is
accurate?
Yeah, the answer is yes and no. We have extraordinarily low churn from anyone that adopts the product and actually starts billing in any sort of
Yeah,
significant way. Like if you get to $500 in MRR, you'll pretty much never churn.
you're staying
And
on board.
like I can count on two hands the number of customers that have gotten there that have ever churned, which is great.
Yeah,
On the other hand, it is a low price point product. We do sell to startups. We definitely do see a lot of companies launch, put Outseta on their
yeah,
website, not find any traction and churn within the first 30 or 60 days. And I think that's
yeah,
always going to be the case. So the name of the game for us more and more is how do we find these quality companies that are going to go
Mhm.
on and have some financial success?
Yeah. And yeah, that makes sense. And on the other one, sales. Like I agree with you. You're probably leaving a lot of money behind by not doing that,
Yep.
which I think is fine. I think it all depends on like what your intentions are as a company. Like, do you want to be
Mm-hmm.
like like do you want Outseta to be like this unicorn $1 billion company, or are you guys
Yep.
okay just like being in your lane, getting to that X dollar ARR, and you're okay with
Yep.
that? Like, what's the goals, the intentions?
Yeah, that being a unicorn is definitely not our intention. And to be, perfectly fair. We're nowhere anywhere in the vicinity of even being close to that. But I have over the last year, really for the first time, sort of entertained the idea that this business might have significant potential to grow big if we wanted it to. Frankly, I don't think we want it to. What we've kind of discussed in terms of how we've structured the team, in terms of basically all aspects of how we've designed the business, I don't want to set an arbitrary sort of maximum in terms of headcount or how big the company could be. But part of why we've made the decisions that we've made is we looked back at our previous business, which grew to about 200 employees. And we said we had a lot more fun when we were 20 employees than when we were 200. And I really like sort of this notion of we want to grow into a 20-person company and see how far we can push Outseta with 20 people. I think that is going to build a lot of discipline into the business. It's going to force us to solve problems creatively rather than just throwing headcount at our issues. So that's kind of the goal. I'd like to see us get there. We're 5 people. I would like to see us get to the point where we're 20. And certainly being a billion-dollar company is not a goal for me. If we were a 20-person company doing $10 million in revenue, I think that's super modest for what we could do. But that's a good outcome for me. If those 20 people are well compensated and love working here, that's a win in my book.
Yeah, that's amazing. I subscribe to the same type of model and thinking when growing a company. Just the thought of like a $1 billion company and just like the headaches and politics and bureaucracy that comes with that. I mean,
sure.
I don't know. Anyways,
Yep.
So where do you see, what's the goal for Outseta in 2023? Like where do you want to take the company in terms of like, growth, products? Like what's the goal? I don't know if you guys had that meeting or discussion yet, but where do you want to see the company end of next year?
We don't have like a hard and fast goal, but there's a few things that are indicative of what I'd like to do over the next year. And really 2022 was Outseta's first like really big year. We grew in a huge way this year and sort of blossomed into a legitimate business. So there's things following up on that are important to me. One is we're still, a team of 5, and at this point we're supporting a pretty big customer base. And we haven't broken, but we're certainly bending. I'm very excited to add like even 1, 2, 3 more people to the team. That's certainly a goal of mine in 2022 or 2023, excuse me.
Can I dive into that one? Like who do you want to, what type of resources do you want to hire?
Yeah, I think there's probably 2. We are unique in that, like, if we have anything in spades, it's development firepower. We almost have like too much development capacity, which is a great problem to have, but it's a reflection of this huge thing that we're building. There's probably 2. I guess if I could hire 3 people, there's 3 roles I would want to hire. We do need another front end developer. We have more back end talent than front end talent, so I'd love to hire a front end developer. I would love to hire sort of our first like head of customer success. As I said, everybody does support, but I think someone whose job is just to advocate for the customer base at large and sort of own that side of the business would be great. Yeah. And then really the biggest struggle or the biggest impediment to our growth, to be perfectly frank, is right now I am sort of the marketing founder. I am the only one on sort of the go-to-market side of the business. And because we're this small team supporting this large customer base, I have very, very little time to devote to anything marketing related. So I think adding somebody else on sort of the go-to-market side of the equation, specifically a marketer to help me, would be a big win as well.
Yeah, nice. And I was going to ask you that as well. So you're a co-founder of Outseta, right?
I'm a co-founder, and I come from a marketing background.
Okay.
So I still kind of think of myself as a marketer, I guess.
Okay, yeah. I was gonna ask like what your like day to day focus. I'm sure I know it's like all over the place, and you're clearly wearing multiple hats. But if you had to
Yeah.
like hone in on something, it would be marketing.
It should be marketing. It's not. I've gotten pulled into the day to day operations of the business in a bigger way than I wish I had.
Yeah.
Today, I would say realistically, I probably spend 20% or less of my time on marketing. It is mostly split between customer success, customer service, and product management. I am very much like the one working with our customers day to day the most. I kind of have my ear to the needs of our customers more than anybody else. And I'm communicating a lot of that, back to our product team in general, but from a product management perspective, doing a lot of the feature prioritization and whatnot. Um,
Hmm.
that and support
Yeah.
probably take up most of my time.
Yeah. We didn't talk about just quickly about support side of Outseta. So I think that's
Mm-hmm.
obviously a very important function in any business, especially
Yep.
in businesses that are highly competitive, and differentiators are oftentimes like being able to provide amazing quick customer support.
Yep.
So talk about the support component of Outseta. Like how does it work? Is it like just live chat, in-app support? Are you able to
Yeah.
bring in multiple channels?
So much learning on the support front over the last few years. Probably the single biggest mistake I would say we've made since we've been in business is we came out of the gate with a freemium tier, and the freemium tier was completely well intentioned. As you know, people sort of build SaaS products and they're ready to go on very different timelines. So the idea was you can get into Outseta, have access to a free account, take as long as you want to sort of launch your product, and then you'll move on to a paid plan once you start using the product in earnest. I think it like the strategy fit our target market, but didn't fit how we wanted to build our business. What we realized and the problem we created was all of a sudden we got pretty good at marketing and we had thousands of users every month signing up on a free subscription and asking for
Wow.
support. And a lot of them weren't converting for 1 month, 3 months, 6 months. So we were providing a ton of support over a long time period before we even made a dollar. It got to the point where it was completely all encompassing. It was killing our ability to push out new features. It was killing my ability to focus on marketing. So we scrapped the free plan. Learning there is you can scrap the free plan, but there's still going to, unless you force everyone to upgrade, there's still going to be people on that plan for months on end that you still have to support. So it took a while to kind of settle down. And we actually experimented with a model where we went directly to paid. There was no free trial. There was no freemium. You had to sign up and pay for the product. Almost like we overcorrected to save our butts.
Yeah.
And since we've found kind of a middle ground, but beware of a freemium tier is the lesson there. Outside of that, similarly, like we used to have live chat up on our site. We offer a live chat component to our software. We've since removed it. It just kills the ability to get into any sort of deep work
Yeah.
whatsoever. So because we want to stay small, I'd say that the core of our support strategy is make really good tutorials and documentation. We want people to self-serve to the extent that they can. Beyond that, we use our own support ticketing system. The vast majority of our technical support is handled via support tickets. And I would say what we do really well is when you write in with a ticket, even if it's ridiculously technically complex, we're going to surprise you because everyone at the team is mostly engineers and very senior with how good of a response you're going to get. But we basically set the expectation we're going to get back to you within 24 hours.
Yeah.
If you need a support response from a live chat agent in 5 minutes, you're not going to get it, and we try to be very upfront about that with our
Yeah.
customers.
Yeah, that's the reason I asked you like who you plan to hire, your top three. I feel like as a company grows, one of the first kind of departments to break is often support.
Yep.
Just because clients base grows, product grows, more questions. So you want to
Yep.
always like try and maintain that high level of support. So you said you took off the live chat on the front facing website or in
Yep.
app as well?
In-app as well.
In
You
app
can
as well.
submit a support ticket directly from both places, but we took it out.
Okay, nice. All right, that makes sense. What about phone support?
We don't do phone support, but if you reach out and say like we need to jump on a call, we do that routinely. We have two things that contribute to our support volume, and that have just been realizations. Like going back to your point about selling to these different target markets, we will be on one call with somebody that's a super technical software engineer that's amazingly technically competent, and then on the next call we're with someone who's like, I don't know how to log into my own website. So we have support in all different shapes and flavors, which is challenging because we need to sort of triage like who are we talking to. Can we speak developer to them or not? Like that's something we have to figure out relatively quickly. And then just beyond that, something I hadn't thought about enough prior to Outseta was, as you assess startup ideas, how much support different ideas are going to create. And the hard truth is Outseta is this big product. Even if we make it incredibly usable and really focus on UX design, it's not onboarding into a billing system or a CRM or a help desk or a reporting tool. It's onboarding into all those things. And there is going to be a learning curve as a result. And I think we're always going to be a company that has a high volume of support, even if we do everything right and try to make the software as easy to use as possible. So all the more reason to try to double down on that documentation, help people self-serve to the greatest extent possible. And then if you do need help, we get on a call with you pretty readily.
Yeah, for sure. Last question I have for you, like what would be your, so what you're providing is like a fundamental part, like a foundational part of a SaaS company's business and livelihood in a lot of ways. So
Yep,
what's like if a SaaS company is using Outseta, like they're expecting Outseta to be around and
yep,
growing for as
yep,
long as they are, right? For forever, for life.
for sure.
So what would be your pitch to a SaaS company or a founder who has that question and like, where's Outseta going to be? Where are you going to be in 10,
Yeah.
20 years? Like, do you want to sell your company? Like what's your pitch to that?
Yeah, this is a question we get a lot, and it's one that we actually have a good response to at this point, because we can speak like what we're saying is credible, and you can go back in history and see that. And what I mean by that is like if you go all the way back to the end of our blog, the first blog post we wrote, we said we are not building this company to build a unicorn. We're not trying to grow to X amount of revenue and sell the company in 5 years. We envision we're going to work on this for the next 15 or 20 years. We're going to structure the business to be small and independent. We might not ever sell the business, and we're going to structure all aspects of the business around that idea. So we do profit sharing as an example amongst our team. Everybody within the team is an owner in the business, at least 3% or more. A lot of these things that aren't conducive to we're out there hunting for an exit. We're out there building a business for the long term and are going to reward people differently. And it's easy to say those things, and I think a lot of companies do say those things. But if you look at every decision that we've made over the course of the company, first of all, they're all documented there for you to see, and they don't paint a picture of where we're just trying to exit and that's that. So I think as people ask that question and they go back and look at some of those things, they say, wow, that like these people are putting their money where their mouth is. We devoted 4 years of building this thing to get to 100 or a couple hundred customers. And we've really taken that sort of long-term approach to heart. So I think
Yeah.
that tends to quell that concern for the most part.
Yeah, that's great. That's awesome. Geoff, it was really great chatting with you. I'm glad we were able to speak.
Yeah.
Where's the best place if someone wanted to learn more, find you, learn more about Outseta? Where's the best place they can find you?
Yeah, it's just outseta.com. So it's the word outset and then an A on the end. You can check out the product and view demos and all that kind of stuff there. Me personally, you can find me either on Twitter. I'm at Geoff T. Roberts, but I am a Geoff. So it's Geoff T. Roberts. Or on LinkedIn, you can find me as well.
Amazing. That's awesome. Sorry, last question quickly. Outseta, where'd that name come from?
Yeah, I wish I had a better answer to this than I do.
I thought I was going to hear a story or.
There's not a great story. We wanted something, first of all, where the .com domain was available. Secondarily, that gives this notion of sort of a new beginning. So the word outset means like a new beginning or starting off. Yeah. And then we needed something that sort of sounded techie, so we threw an A on the end and said Outseta. That's it.
Hey, that's great. That's a story in itself. I like it. Awesome. Well, Geoff, pleasure again. We should definitely do this again. And all the best to you and Outseta.
Thank you so much. It was fun.
All right. Take care.